On a business trip overseas, my parents dropped a bomb. They'd sold my seaside villa for my sister's gambling debts. "You didn't need it, right?" their email read. My silence was my answer. I called the police. But they had no idea what truly awaited them when the real estate agent rang. The salty breeze whipped around me as I stood on the veranda of the seaside villa, my fingers tightening around my phone. The screen blared. "Dad," and a familiar surge of anger coiled in my gut. "You went ahead and did whatever you wanted, didn't you?" I accused, my voice barely a tremor. On the other end, my father, Daniel, exhaled audibly. "Margaret, I thought you'd understand. Diana needs money. If we don't pay off the debt, it's only natural for family to help each other." A bitter smile twisted my lips. The usual family card. I am Margaret Moore, and my parents had always lavished adoration upon my sister, Diana, who was 2 years my junior. My earliest memory, a sharp, vivid snapshot, was of my 5th birthday. I was ecstatic, clutching the handlebars of the bright red bicycle I had longed for. But that joy was fleeting. Diana soon coveted the bike, and before long, it was hers. "Diana wants it, doesn't she? You're the big sister, so let her have it." My small protest, "But it was my birthday present," dissolved unheard. The bike, like so many things, became Diana's. Elementary school brought a similar pattern. The new pencil case, a gift for my first day, caught Diana's eye. Inevitably, I was given a different one. "Diana is still young, so she wants what you have," my mother would explain, her voice always yielding to Diana's whims. Even extracurricular activities revolved solely around my sister. When I expressed a desire for swimming lessons, my parents immediately dismissed it. "We're spending money on Diana's piano lessons. Besides, Diana would feel lonely on her own." For Diana's pursuits, piano, ballet, painting, funds were limitless. For me, only school clubs were permitted. If I finished my homework and wanted to play, the directive was always, "Help Diana with her studies." Our parents attended all of Diana's school events, but for mine, the excuse was invariably, "We're too busy at work." When I came in first in a race on sports day, my achievement went unnoticed, overshadowed by Diana's tears after a fall. During an open school day, I delivered a speech as class president, yet my parents skipped it to attend Diana's event. By the time I was elected class representative, in 6th grade, I didn't even bother telling them. I knew the conversation would simply circle back to Diana. My 3rd year of high school stands out most vividly. I poured myself into my studies, determined to gain acceptance into my first-choice university. My parents' reaction was chillingly indifferent. "Oh, that's nice," my mother murmured, her gaze more interested in Diana's mock test results. That evening, dinner was a feast of Diana's favorite dishes, ostensibly a celebration of my accomplishment. Yet every topic, every comment, revolved around Diana. No one acknowledged my efforts or shared in my joy. Christmas brought a predictable disparity. Diana received extravagant gifts, while I was given practical items like stationery or clothes. Even the travel expenses for my club competitions were denied, the money deemed necessary for Diana's piano lessons. "Diana is sensitive," they'd say. "Diana is delicate." By the time I entered university, I had completely detached myself from my family. It was then, amidst the fresh start of college life, that I met Ken at the windsurfing club. A freshman and a complete novice, I was constantly at the mercy of the waves, tumbling into the sea countless times. Salt water stung my eyes, and my lungs burned. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm me, Ken, the older, seasoned club captain, extended his hand. "Everyone starts like this," he said, his voice a calm anchor. "I fell all day long when I was a freshman too." His words were a lifeline. Until then, I had rarely encountered such kindness in the face of my own struggles. One particularly memorable evening, on the final day of our training camp, I found myself alone, battling the waves as dusk settled. I hadn't managed to stand up all day, and this was my last chance. "Margaret! The wind is shifting!" Ken's shout from the shore cut through the roar of the ocean. In that instant, everything clicked into place. The wind's direction, the wave's movement, the subtle feel of the board beneath my feet. Before I knew it, I was upright, gliding across the water. I did it! My teammates cheered, but my eyes were fixed on Ken's beaming smile. Don't tense up on the board, he advised gently. Feel the waves and move with them. His words resonated deeply. No one had ever treated me with such thoughtful care. My parents had always been consumed by Diana, showing little interest in my efforts or achievements. Margaret, you've got talent, Ken told me later. Your intuition for reading waves is amazing. It wasn't just his technical guidance that drew me in. It was his unwavering kindness and the occasional glint of mischief in his eyes. A few months later, we began dating. Upon graduating from university, we decided to turn our shared passion for marine sports into a business, founding an import company. Everyone around us, especially my parents, vehemently opposed the idea. How do you plan to survive with such an unstable business? My father had demanded. Diana is struggling, so you need to help the family. My mother insisted, her thoughts still entirely consumed by my sister. Diana, meanwhile, had dropped out of university, drifted through various part-time jobs, and spent her days in aimless pursuits. Each time she accumulated debt, my parents stepped in, cleaning up her messes and defending her as a poor child. In stark contrast, their demands on me were relentless. But Ken was different. He believed in my dreams and was ready to walk this challenging path with me. If it's us, we can make it happen, he affirmed. With those words as our compass, we worked tirelessly to raise startup capital. I juggled multiple part-time jobs while Ken borrowed from his family. Our first office was a cramped apartment, a 30-minute walk from the nearest station, furnished entirely with second-hand desks and cabinets. This is our starting line, Ken declared with a laugh, and I laughed with him, a shared sense of purpose binding us. Finding business partners proved far more challenging than we had imagined. You're too young, you have no track record. We faced rejection after rejection. Yet we refused to yield. We attended marine sports tournaments, cultivated relationships with athletes, and gradually, painstakingly, earned their trust. Our turning point arrived when we connected with a small manufacturer in Australia. They, too, were just starting out, eager to expand into the U.S. market. Perhaps our shared passion resonated, for we secured an exclusive distributor contract. That night, we celebrated in our tiny office with a cheap bottle of sparkling wine and canned appetizers, dreaming aloud of our future. Looking back, that might have been the true beginning of our journey. 5 years ago, our company, which had begun in that small warehouse, was finally recognized within the industry, and we achieved our dream of owning a vacation home. We found the property. Soon after we started looking, perched on a hill, embraced by trees, it offered a breathtaking ocean view that instantly captivated us. This is the one, Ken said, echoing my very thoughts. My parents, predictably, opposed it. It's unnecessary to spend so much money on such a luxury, they lectured. Their disapproval, however, wasn't merely about the expense. They still hadn't fully accepted my work, our life choices. But their opinion no longer mattered. This villa was tangible proof of the dream Ken and I had painstakingly built together. On our first night there, we sat on the deck, gazing at the stardusted sky, listening to the rhythmic crash of waves. Ken held my hand. Margaret, let's grow old together here. Those words still warm my heart. But that serenity shattered with a single phone call from my father. It was the morning after I returned from a business trip to Southeast Asia, visiting the vacation home. Margaret, I need to talk to you, he said, his tone laced with a forced confidence. Did something happen? I asked casually, oblivious to the harsh reality about to engulf me. It's about your vacation home, he began, and an immediate sense of dread washed over me. The vacation home? What about it? I've already sold it. The ownership transfer will take place next month. For a moment, his words hung in the air, meaningless. Sale? Transfer? Our precious vacation home? What are you talking about? My voice trembled. Diana is in trouble. She failed at an investment and now has $200,000 in debt. My father explained, his tone defensive. And what does that have to do with our vacation home? Anger blazed within me. Margaret, I thought you'd understand. Diana needs money. If we don't help the collectors. You went ahead and did whatever you wanted, didn't you? I cut him off, my voice icy, my grip on the balcony railing tightening. You barely even used the vacation home. He pressed, his voice growing more forceful. Diana's life is at stake. Is a vacation home you rarely use more important than your sister's life? That's Diana's problem, I retorted, struggling to keep my voice steady. To sell the vacation home without our consent. How did you even manage to proceed with the sale? I sensed a flicker of hesitation on his end. I had your signatures, and the documents were already prepared. You forged them. My heart hammered as the horrifying truth of my parents' actions sank in. Margaret, listen to me. Diana isn't at fault. She was just tricked. No, this is a crime. An unauthorized sale is fraud. My voice was cold, resolute. I'm contacting the police. I heard my father gasp. The police? Don't be ridiculous. How can you bring a family matter outside? No, this isn't just a family matter. It's a crime, I stated firmly, clutching the railing tighter. Dad, Mom, it's time you stopped cleaning up Diana's messes. Before us stretched the vacation home that Ken and I had worked tirelessly for years to save for, the place where we had dreamed, windsurfed, and gazed at the stars while sharing our hopes for the future. Margaret, we're family, aren't we? Helping each other is what family does. My father pleaded, his voice shifting to desperation. Yes, we're family, I said, letting out a deep, weary sigh. And that's why I have to report you and Mom for fraud. As I ended the call, only the sound of the waves remained. The salty breeze cooled my flushed cheeks, but it couldn't extinguish the disbelief. My parents had sunk to an unforgivable low, their twisted devotion to Diana finally crossing a line. Perhaps, in part, I was to blame for not stopping them sooner. But enough was enough. I slipped my phone into my pocket and returned inside the villa. An hour later my phone rang again. It was Ken. Margaret, are you okay? Hearing his voice, a measure of calm settled over me. Yes, I just finished talking to my father. I got a call from the potential buyer, Ken said, his voice steady. It turns out they're one of my younger friends from university. When I explained the situation, they understood immediately. The sale has been called off. I let out a deep sigh of relief. At least one problem was averted. Thank you, Ken. I also heard from the police, he continued. They found the forged documents your parents used. His words made my chest tighten. How far were they willing to fall? Ken arrived at the vacation home later that evening, having left work early to check on me. Are you okay? He asked, his gentle voice a much-needed balm. He embraced me, and the tears I had been holding back finally spilled over. Why? Why would they do this? Do they think they can do anything as long as it's for Diana? Ken stroked my hair, speaking softly. You've done nothing wrong. In fact, I'm proud of you for standing your ground. His words soaked into my heart, a profound comfort. The following day, the police launched a full-scale investigation. My parents were subjected to questioning on charges of attempted fraud. My mother called me repeatedly, but I didn't answer. A week passed. On the deck of the vacation home, we watched the sunset paint the ocean, the quiet rhythm of the waves soothing my heart. I remember, Ken said quietly, the day we found this place. I remembered too. We had decided on the spot. Though the house was old, fixing it up became part of our story. We repainted railings, replaced floorboards, renovated the kitchen, every bit of work done by us together. Sometimes we argued, but even those moments now felt nostalgic. Margaret, Ken said, holding my hand, we're in this together. Whatever challenges come our way, we'll face them as a team. I nodded. My relationship with my parents might never be restored, but that was acceptable. This was our life, our choices, and this seaside vacation home was the tangible proof of our love. Meanwhile, the police investigation progressed steadily, revealing more details about my parents' calculated actions. They had known from the beginning that the property was jointly owned by Ken and me, yet they had proceeded with the sale regardless. The forgery of documents was meticulously planned. It was revealed that during their explanation to the prospective buyer, they had provided false information. They had been preparing for this for 3 months. First, they forged my signature, then skillfully imitated Ken's to falsify the agreement of sale. To the real estate agent, they lied, claiming, "Our daughter and her partner are being relocated overseas and can no longer manage the property." The most shocking revelation was that my mother had spread malicious rumors in the neighborhood, claiming, "Margaret and her husband racked up debts and are forcing us to clean up after them." She was willing to tarnish her own daughter's reputation just to protect Diana. Diana got involved in a fraudulent investment scheme. My mother reportedly confessed tearfully during police questioning. "It was supposed to be just $10,000 at first, but before we knew it, it had become $200,000. My parents had drained their savings and sold off land to cover the debt. Even that wasn't enough, so they tried to sell our vacation home to make up the difference." "Diana isn't to blame," my mother insisted during questioning. "She was just tricked. She's not as smart as Margaret." It was said that even the interrogating officer was left speechless by her words. My emotions were a tangled mess. I could scarcely believe my own parents had resorted to such depths. Then one day, Diana contacted me. "How could you do this, sis? Turning our parents over to the police is cruel." Her victim mentality was as ingrained as ever. I responded calmly. "Diana, do you realize they tried to sell the vacation home Ken and I cherish, just to cover your debt? That's a crime. But we're family, aren't we? I'm really struggling here. It's time you started taking responsibility for your actions. I'm done cleaning up after you." After hanging up, an overwhelming fatigue washed over me. Since childhood, Diana had been coddled by our parents, while I studied diligently and worked hard. Diana, however, lived recklessly, relying on our parents to bail her out every time she stumbled. I'd lost count of how many times Diana had accumulated debt. It began with a student loan during her single year of college, initially a small amount, $3,000 from a consumer finance company. Her reason? To go shopping for luxury brands with friends. Instead of scolding her, my parents excused her, saying, "She's just a young girl, it can't be helped," and paid off the debt immediately. 2 months later, we discovered she had misused her tuition money, spending it on trips with friends and new clothes. My father dipped into his savings to cover the $3,000 shortfall. "Diana lacks life experience," they said. "It's natural she doesn't understand the value of money." Rather than reprimand her, my parents defended her with endless excuses. In her 3rd year, Diana abruptly announced she was dropping out of college, citing, "I can't keep up with the classes." Shortly after, while working part-time at a restaurant, she began dating a customer. He introduced her to an investment scheme, and she lost $38,000. "You wouldn't understand, Margaret, because you're so smart," Diana had snarled, glaring at me as if I were the problem. "He's the only one I have." My parents begged her to break up with him and eventually persuaded her, but once again, they paid off her debt. Their retirement savings were nearly depleted. And now this, duped by another fraudulent investment scheme, Diana had accrued $200,000 in debt. This time, my parents had no means left to cover it, so they turned to selling our vacation home. They spoiled her too much. I had always pointed out, but my mother would shake her head. "Diana is a fragile girl. We have to protect her." My parents' excessive devotion to Diana was destroying her. She lacked any sense of personal responsibility, repeating the same mistakes while insisting, "I'm the victim." When I decided to start my own business, my parents vehemently opposed it. "You should just join a stable company," they insisted. "You need to be responsible for Diana too." But I had already escaped that curse. With Ken as my partner and unwavering supporter, I had begun to walk my own path. And yet, my parents tried to take away the place that meant so much to us. In the end, the total debt, as far as I knew, exceeded $400,000. Every time my parents defended Diana as the poor girl, and continued to clean up her messes. Diana isn't at fault, society is just too harsh, you're lucky, Margaret, so you should help. Those words now echoed with bitter irony. In the end, my parents ruined Diana's life by spoiling her, and now they were trying to destroy ours as well. Maybe they never really accepted what we do for a living, Ken said seriously. He was right. Their attempt to sell the vacation home was just an extension of their fundamental lack of understanding. Perhaps that's why they were able to decide so easily to get rid of something we cherished. But that's their problem, I said firmly. Our bond is something no one can break. Ken smiled gently, that smile always giving me strength. We had our own path, and the memories etched into this vacation home were proof of that. As autumn deepened, the sea grew rougher, little by little. We sat close together on the deck, watching the sunset over the ocean. My relationship with my parents and Diana would likely never return to what it once was, but that was my choice. The final report from the police arrived with the onset of winter. My parents were prosecuted and received a suspended sentence. I discarded their apology letters without reading them. Sometimes, forgiving only enables the repetition of wrongdoing. That was a lesson I had learned. A year has passed since then. According to a neighbor who spoke to my mother's friend, my parents are still struggling to repay their debts. After the fraudulent sale of the vacation home was exposed, my father had to resign from his job. My mother now juggles part-time jobs, early mornings at a warehouse, packing at a food factory during the day, and working the register at a supermarket at night. I heard the Moores are having a tough time. I overheard a housewife gossiping near the supermarket register where my mother worked. She has lost so much weight. Their family home had already been sold, and my parents and Diana now lived in a cheap apartment on the outskirts of town. Their retirement savings and all their funds were depleted, and they took on more debt to pay off Diana's. Margaret, can't you help your parents? Relatives called me multiple times with the same question, and every time I gave the same answer. They'll have to solve their problems on their own. Diana, meanwhile, hasn't changed. She met a man at a nightclub and is now considering another investment scheme. This time it's foolproof. I'm definitely going to make money. When my parents tried to stop her, Diana lashed out. I'm struggling, and you're acting like Margaret, so cold-hearted. Just help me. But my parents no longer had the means to support Diana. They were barely managing to keep up with monthly repayments. My father had taken on a night security job, working weekends without a break. My mother spent her days scouring supermarket sales for discounted items. She can't afford to be picky, neighbors would say, though she was once seen crying alone on the roadside late at night. Diana, angry at being abandoned by my parents, directed all her fury toward me. This is all your fault, sis. Reporting them to the police ruined everything. We could have solved it all just by selling that stupid vacation home. One day, I ran into my mother at the supermarket. She was unrecognizable, her hair now white, her back hunched. When our eyes met, she hurried away, avoiding me. Her shopping basket was filled with soon-to-expire discounted food items. My father, meanwhile, reportedly collapsed during his late-night security shift. The diagnosis was overwork. Still, he returned to work without rest, knowing that if they fell behind on payments, the collection calls would never stop. At the end of the year, I received an email from Diana. Margaret, lend me $50,000. I promise I can turn everything around with it. She had maxed out her consumer loans. Her credit cards were unusable. There was no one left, friends or acquaintances, she could borrow from. Cornered, Diana was turning to me for help. I didn't reply. Instead, I sent my parents information on counseling and debt relief services. That was the most I could do for them now. Why didn't we realize what was happening before it got this bad? The words of my mother's friend lingered painfully in my heart. But this was the path my parents had chosen. Their blind devotion to Diana had ultimately brought the entire family to ruin. I sighed deeply as I gazed out at the ocean at night. Ken came up behind me and gently placed his arms around my shoulders. "You're not at fault," he said. I nodded quietly. I had made the right choice. It was a painful but necessary decision. "I've been thinking," Ken said, his expression serious. "What if we use this vacation home as a venue for charity events?" "Charity?" I asked. "Yes, let's give underprivileged kids the chance to experience marine sports." I was deeply moved by his suggestion. Having experienced the loneliness of being misunderstood by my own family, I wanted to support children who felt the same isolation. "That's a wonderful idea," I said. Ken continued. "Your parents saw this place as nothing more than a piece of real estate, but to us, it's a place of dreams. If we could share that dream with others." I took his hand in mine. Ken always understood the deepest corners of my heart. "Let's do it," I said with determination. We changed into our wetsuits, and as I rode the waves, I felt a pure sense of happiness. Yes, my relationship with my biological family was irrevocably altered, but I had chosen my path, and that choice wasn't a mistake. Listening to the sound of the waves, we looked toward the future. This vacation home would continue to nurture our dreams, and now, it would also become a place of hope for others pursuing dreams of their own.